Hello and welcome to Unit 6, CSRD, Connectivity and Contextualization. This unit continues our discussion about the connectivity and contextualization of KPIs by looking at the CSRD and the contextual information it requires companies to report alongside KPIs. The CSRD, or the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, is a new European directive that will apply to all large firms in the coming years. The overall requirements of the CSRD is that the company report on its sustainability-related issues in its annual reports. So it is the requirement for an integrated report. Secondly, that these reports have some sort of external assurance, limited at first, but maybe developing over time, and that all companies report according to a common set of principles. The disclosures for the CSRD are also similar to those that are required when creating an integrated report. The company has to report on its business model, strategies, policies, its KPIs, and its targets, also how it governs these. And the concept of double materiality is embedded in the CSRD as well. Finally, the company has to also report on the risks and opportunity management. Specific metrics that are reported are dictated by the topic-specific disclosures. And there are three overall categories: environmental, social, and governance. And then there are sector-specific standards which dictate what is material for given sectors. Through an examination of the currently draft disclosure standards, we can see that there is a level of connectivity that is proposed in each individual topic. For a given topic, once it is deemed material, the company will need to report on its strategy in the area, its policies, the actions and resources, its KPIs and targets. So this sequence will look familiar to you from seeing the connectivity matrix in the last unit. Once a company has deemed a sustainability-related matter to be material, then it must disclose a certain amount of contextualized data alongside its KPIs. The first thing it needs to report on is its strategy, which is usually the general way in which it's going to deal with a problem. Once it's set out the general direction in which it's going to head, it needs to clearly articulate key policies that it's going to use to get there. So for each material sustainability related matter, they should disclose a policy that includes the general objectives of that policy and also dictates which material impacts, risks, or opportunities the policy relates to. Secondly, it needs to explain the scope of the policy, which particular activities or parts of the value chain, geographies, or stakeholders that it is applicable to. And finally, the policy needs to say who is accountable for its implementation. Where does the buck stop? Next, firms should provide an understanding of the key actions taken or planned to address material impacts, risks, and opportunities. To achieve objectives by implementing its policies, a firm must take specific actions, and it should report on these. It should report on the actions taken, the actions planned, and the expected outcomes. Also, how long they're going to take or the time horizon. They should also explain how these actions will contribute to the achievement of the overall objectives set out in the policies and the targets the company has set itself. And finally, it should report on its performance in previous plans or previous action plans in prior periods, using quantitative information such as KPIs or qualitative information to explain how they've done in the past. Next, they should also report on the money that's been put in place to achieve these plans. For a lot of things, in order to get things done, we need to put money behind it. So the report should also include information regarding the type and amount of current and future financial and other resources allocated to the action plan, and also any specific preconditions with regards to that funding. The next chain in the link for the company to report on are its KPIs and targets. So we've spoken a lot about KPIs, so let's start with a discussion of targets. Targets refer to measurable, time-bound, outcome-oriented goals that an undertaking aims to achieve in relation to material impacts, risks, or opportunities. It is what the company wants to achieve over a given period of time. Often, a target will be related to KPIs, as it will be KPI at a certain level. So over the next year, we want to reduce our carbon emissions by 5%. So this is measurable. We can measure the amount of emissions in a given period. It's time-bound. It's over a year. And it's outcome-oriented. It's a reduction in the amount. So alongside reporting these targets, the company should also provide an understanding of whether and how it tracks the effectiveness of its actions. So what are the targets and how are they related to the company's actions and objectives? The company's overall progress towards the adopted targets over time. How have they done? How have they done in the past? And whether and how stakeholders have been involved in target setting for each material sustainability related matter. So where did you get the targets for in the first place? Was it through a dialogue with your stakeholders? Now let's return and discuss the types of KPIs that should be reported under the CSRD. While still under development, the ESRS, which has the job of developing these standards, has as much as possible fully aligned with the GRI standards, which we already studied. So the types of measures that are contained and expected to be reported are similar to those that you have met already. These include absolute measures, such as total fuel consumption, absolute measures broken down by composition, measures that measure the performance both within and outside the organization, relative measures such as energy efficiency or carbon intensity, progress measures that measure how a company has improved or disimproved their performance, which we've also met. And finally, one that we'll discuss in the next unit, future-oriented measures, which look at the financial implications and other risks and opportunities due to climate change and stuff, using tools like scenario analysis. So you can see that although we haven't directly looked at the KPIs that are required under CSRD, you already know many of them. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll see you in the next unit.